Okie dokie. Shoulders, knees and toes. Eyes and ears and nose and mouth. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Eyes and ears and nose and mouth. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Oh, that's what I need to do. Okay. Okay, one more thing. Great. Okay, nice. So, I am currently looking at the warm-up challenges. And I am currently on diagonal difference. The success rate is 96.15%. The maximum score is 10. Difficulty is easy. Okay. Diagonal difference by Vatsalchanana. Problem. Given a square matrix of size n by n. Oh, okay. That is a square matrix, yes. Calculate the absolute difference between the sums of its diagonals. Ooh, okay. Input format. The first line contains a single integer n. Yes. The next n lines denote the matrix's rows, with each line containing n space-separated integers describing the columns. Constraints. -100 is less than or equal to the elements in the matrix, which is less than or equal to 100. So the elements in the matrix cannot be less than -100 and cannot be more than 100, but it could equal -100 or it could equal 100. Output format. Print the absolute difference between the two sums of the matrices diagonals as a single integer. I see. So sample input. The first row contains a 3. Second contains 11, 2, and 4. The third is 4, 5, 6. And then the fourth is 10, 8, -12. So I think it is, let me see if I have this right. 3 plus 11 plus 5 to equate 12. Does that make sense? 19. No. Okay, let me think. The diagonal. 3, 2, 6, -12 makes even less sense. Okay, I'm trying to see what this looks like. That should be between the sums of its diagonals. So are we talking about both diagonals? -100. Two sums of matrix diagonals as in, oh, okay, maybe. So if we're talking about 3 plus 2 plus 6, that would be 11, and the other diagonal would be, I want to say 10, 5, and 4, but that doesn't seem like that makes much sense. Can't say I understand what they're talking about. Okay, good. Explanation. The primary diagonal is 11, 5, and -12. That doesn't really specify why the 3 is on there, but okay. So basically, it's 11, then 5, then -12. So that is 11 plus 5, pardon me, minus 12, and then you use your PEMDAS. So 11 plus 5, the add before the subtraction. 1 plus 5 is 16, minus the 12 is 4. Okay, and then you see the secondary diagonal is 10, 5, and 4. So, okay, so they just ignored the 3. Not sure why they do that, but that's what they did. So they did this and they did that. And then they were like, yo, 10 plus 5 plus 4 is 19 plus 4. But then they had to take an absolute value of the difference. Okay, the sum across the secondary diagonal is 4 plus 5 plus 10 equals 19. Sure. And then they had to take the difference. Is that what we're working on? Oh yeah, diagonal difference. Okay, so then that's absolute value of 4 minus 19, which is the absolute value of -15, which is 15. Okie dokie. So they start you off on the easy with a lot of the stuff that you need, like hashtag include, and then your caret math.h, close that off, hashtag include stdi, start in and out .h, and then caret that, and then hashtag include, then your bracket string.h, close, and then hashtag include the standard library.h, etc. Then the assert for the tests, the limits, and the standard boolean. And then it goes into the main, which is int main. And I'd love to have this all shown. However, HackerRank has this kind of, what I noticed, some kind of security thing where you cannot stream the thing. It's probably a copyright thing, so it's all good. Int main. So you're opening up the main function int n, scanf of the format of decimal, and it's going to be the address of n, and then int a. I think that is array, 2 parts of the array, but that would be a good thing to actually put onto the Google. So I'm going to Google that. I'm going to Google what it means to be having the thing that I'm showing, like seeing right now, which I'll type in. But basically, it's having the okay, if I type that in, that's probably going to work okay. And for anyone why you're not seeing anything, that's just a notepad I have up, and I'm just waiting to read through this stuff, and then once I start getting into work. So this right here, I'm looking up because I kind of forgot that means. And I just gotta see if C language has anything to do with that. Okay. That's actually kind of helpful. Alright. C language. What does it mean to just watch your English, please? Do that. What does that mean? Is that just two elements of the array, or like two? I think it's like two parts in an array. Okay, hold on. Wikibooks opens. That is not what I'm looking for, but maybe this would have something. Okay, so A and the number, so that's definitely something. Okay, that's good. So, if you happen to know this information or can find this information before me, please say something over there in the comment. That'd be very nice. Thank you. Boy. Oh, here we go. Here we go. To get a char array with 3 rows and 5 columns. Okay, cool. So, good. So, we're talking about, in this, we're talking about an array that actually specifies the columns and the array. So, it's basically setting up my array when we have the A and then the bracket in bracket, bracket in bracket. So the first thing is saying, hey, this thing here is an integer array, and keep an eye out for what's going to be in it. First of all, there's going to be a number of rows and number of columns, which is great because it's a square, and that's what they said at the start of the prompt. Okay, for int, and then the array index, which they specify by a underscore I equals 0, semicolon, underscore I. So as long as the a index, the array index, is less than n, then add up the array index, so increment it, increment, increment, increment. And then there's a second for loop, so that's good. Alright, so then there's a second array index, but since i's already taken, we're going to specify this is j. So we're going to set that equal to 0, and as long as that is also less than n, we're going to go ahead and increment that second index. Okay, cool. And then so for every part, of the rows and the columns for our array, it's going to be scanning from 0 through the size of the array, the columns and the rows, integers. And it's also going to be formatted as a decimal. So that's great. Which is, hold on, which is when you put this quotes D, that means that it's going to be formatted as a decimal. Okay. And then it's also going to return 0, and then where am I? Ah, we've gotten into a part where they don't tell us what to do anymore. They don't say, type here. Okay, cool. So they got the main. So what they give us is a way to build the array and a way to scan the integers of the array. Okay, so now it's about determining how to get those diagonals. So in the case of the example, they don't consider 3 part of the diagonal. Oh, well, that's true. Technically speaking, we're dealing with a square, and they've already said that to start, given a square matrix of size n by n. So basically, there are even number of rows and columns. So the 3 is basically not there. That's why they're able to say 11, 5, negative 12, and then say 10, 5, and 4. So what we need to do is start with the very first entry on the first row, then ignore the second two in this case, because n by n could be 3 by 3, 2 by 2, 100 by 100, but for the sake of the sample that they give, which is a 3 by 3, let's just say we start with where it notices the first thing, ignores the second two things, then has to go down to the second column, ignores the first thing, gets the second thing, ignores the third thing. Meanwhile, it's not only just ignoring those things that are ignored, but things that it's getting, it has to add those together. So in the case of the first one, there's 11. It has to add that to the 5, which in turn adds that to the negative 12, which is the third element of the third row. So, the thought is you can pick up the 11. So how do we get the program to say that it is actually a what do you call it? A diagonal is the question. So I guess I will type that in. Okay, so it looks to be that the first question is how do we get the program to realize that it is working with a diagonal? So my thinking cap is on, but it's a good question. And I think that's a good way to start. Diagonal. Did I forget how to spell diagonal? I don't think so. Diagonal. Oh, I did. Wow. That's an 8. Wow. Okay. Alrighty. So that's a question. So referring back to this wonderful thing where it starts and then it skips and then it skips and then it skips and then it goes and then it. Okay. First of all, we definitely need to have the sum. And we're doing integers. So int, because you need to declare with C language, you have to declare your variables at the start. So, and then that's going to equal 0. And then I will specify dsum or even diagsum is going to be set to 0. Let me see how that's coming in on the XSplit. It's not because I'm not looking at it. Okay. There it is. Right. Okay. So int diagsum equals 0. Ba-ba-da. Cool. So it's scanning. So then what do we do? Oh, I think there's some if statements. Like, put this thing in A. Like, say there's A, B, and C. So for this first thing that we scan, put something in A. And if A is not equal to 0, then make I want to say make A if A equals 0. How to do this? Because it's like you have to like look at all the aspects. You have to look at the aspects as far as your this going diagonal and then also this going diagonal, but you have to also keep in mind on the whole matrix. And what we know for sure is this is what we're looking for as far as diagonals go. So maybe instead of just jumping the gun into how diagonals work, how do we get what for sure does not constitute a diagonal? What can we say without a doubt that the program can just skip? Maybe that's a better way to go through things. Or perhaps a contradiction is in order. And we need to figure out what is not a diagonal with an A. Why? 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 What? What is going on with my spelling? Which way is it? It can't be it. Both. Can it? Diagonal. La 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 la. Diagonal. Oh. Sweet. I don't know how I forgot that there was an O involved. Nice. Alright. Okay. That's the question. Blah. That's the question. That's the question. Okay. So, first, it gets the first thing. That's going to happen. Regardless, things are going to be scanning. It's going to be scanning all of the elements. Pardon me. So what's going to happen is, for an aside, say we have a matrix of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Now I know I've done this in linear algebra last year. And I know there was a lot to do about how to actually make this work, and I even did a bit in discrete math with this, but this is how my memory works. Not very well. So it needs to start with A, then say, oh, I'm good. I have A, therefore not B, not C. Then it's got to be like, oh, look, I got A. Well, I already went ahead and did something with that. I already got something in this column. Ah, columns. Okay, so hey, I'm cool with that column, but hey, I haven't gotten anything from this column. But then it has to be like, yo, I only need to get one column. I've gotten my column, so I don't need to do this one here. And then it needs to go and be like, yo, yeah, so we're really cool when it comes to this one. We already got that column. And guess what? We freaking got this one too. So it's all good. But yo, we need this one. And that's how with the primary. Ah, okay. Is that coming in? Oh, cool. Am I alone again? Oh, I'm not. Hi. Okay, then secondary. Secondary. you gotta go up the other way. So with the primary, we're looking for a... let's not tab, that's too much room. E... oh, my phone. A part done for the darkness. Let me see if I can get this to do something. Okay, so that takes care of primary. Then we have to get secondary. And secondary in this case is... I want to say GEC, but I think it's... no, GEC. Let me double check. Nothing's wrong with double checking. Okay. Yeah. So it's going like this. So, yeah. Cool. Alright. Alright. So G, E, C. So the best way to do that is like, kind of like that, Cupid Shuffle, I think. Reverse. Or is that the other one? Okay. So what we need now is for it to be like, I swear like it's possible to just do the opposite of that. So to switch it, and instead of starting with, like for the primary, it's definitely a good idea to be like, okay, we're going to start at 1, 1. And then we're going to go and we're going to see if the column amount is, if the column has been used. So I think there's a boolean that we need. It looks like. And I think the whole idea of the secondary is to put it in reverse. So, okay, that's something to start with. Okay. Sure. Okay, so if I'm like, scan those things, and so I want to say we want 2 functions, possibly no, 3. I want to say 3 functions. I want to say the first one, 4 functions. The first one is primary. The second one is secondary. The third one is this whole idea of taking the difference, and then the third one and fourth one would be to do that absolute value. So first of all, so currently what they have is, oh yeah, so there's definitely a boolean in here because otherwise they wouldn't include that. Okay, cool. So fun. So if, oh that's right, we gotta probably set up a boolean too. So is full, or is, again, we only need one column. As long as one column has been ticked, then column. So, okay. Int, we don't want to say main. Now the question is, how to oh, that's interesting. Oh, it did come up. Okay, I thought that was just nowhere. Okay, cool. So now the question is how to do this wonderful thing of do I need a new window? Probably. Yeah, the only problem with doing the web pages, I don't know how to use the navigation. I might be the one watching myself. That happens. I could just be talking to myself today. That does happen a lot. Guess I won't know. Okay. I'm just checking something for a sec. Okay. Because I'm pretty sure I'm just talking to myself at this rate. Which is fine. See, I'm not used to that. I am pretty used to that. Okay, cool. Okay. Sweet. Alright. So, I'm probably the only viewer. That's okay. Alright. So, HackerRank. HackerRank. Doing this. So, int bag sum equals 0. So I'm going to say primary diag sum second diag sum then I'm going to say, okay, we got so oh, hold on, I can actually do things. Weird. Okay. Is it because my face is in the way? No. Okay, let me try that again, I guess. Alright. Nope. Okay. Oh. If I do that, does that work? Okay. Alright, so then the question I have now, as far as refreshing, is C language function. Because I'm pretty sure you just have to so I think it's similar with the main, where you just have to say the name in the function, but I just wanted to make sure what the syntax is. Wow, all kinds of things that may not be helpful. Okay. Here we go. I'm just trying to find an example. Oh, okay, cool. So return type. The return type we're going to be getting is going to be integer. Okay. So integer function name is primary diag arith, and then that's going to be the parameters, and then I think those are curly braces. Right. Okay. Curly braces, and so it's going to get this information, and this is going to be part of that information. And I want to see if that's a pointer. It might be a pointer that that's supposed to get. But for now, let's just say that. And then int secondary diag arith and then that guy, and then okay. You know what I'm doing and not doing? Let me just go ahead and do right. Oh, right. Okay. And then this guy's in there. Okay, so cool. And then I think there's also a int diag def, and that's going to be getting the oh, did I get some drops? No drops. Okay, so diag-def, that's going to be getting some things, very likely, and it's just gonna take the primary minus the secondary, I think. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. And then Oh, excuse me. Next thing is a function that's going to be int, um, excuse me, absolute value. Assuming that's not already a thing, that could be a thing already. Okay, apparently that's a thing. But is that a thing that's included? Math. Yeah, okay. So, cool. So, abs is just a thing. So I shouldn't have to do one. So I'm going to hold off on that. Okay, so it has to pick only one. It has to start with the column. It has to get this stuff. It has to get okay, so it gets it scans in at the address of okay, so I'm gonna run this code as it is right now just to see what it does. Okay, input is 3, 11, 2, 4, 4, 5, 6, 10, 8, 12. And there's no standard out response at present, which is fine. Okay, and so what I need to figure, so now I'm curious, if I just commented this second loop out, will I then just get the 3? I got a compile error. Guys, why? Undeclared. I said it was undeclared. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm stupid. If I do that, then I gotta take this guy out too. So, if I take this guy out too, what do I get? Other thing's broken. Right. Oh, a lot of bad news. Okay, let's not do it that way. We're gonna reset that, get that back to what it was before I start messing stuff up. Okay. And then, ooh, it stayed. Ooh, darn. Okay. I was hoping that would not do that, but that's okay. I think I remember how to get that back to what it was before I messed it up. Ooh, excuse me. Okay. Pretty sure I know. Okay. A. Let's go J. And the code. Right. Okay, so that's back to what it was before. So that's good. And I still think I'm just walking to myself, but that's okay. I'm going to yeah, there's no reason to believe that I'm not watching myself. Okie dokie. So it needs to be able to, again, my thing is there is a 3 there, and that is weird. What could I do? What can I do? So it does the standard in well. So it seems like the first thing to do is see how it's supposed to ignore the 3. Like, huh. So if the number of rows does not equal the number of columns, perhaps? Move to the next row. Uh, um, I want to say, hum. So, Boolean, that's another thought. Boolean in the, oops, okay, so switching back over to Google, because now's a good time to try to remember how booleans work. So this one I'm gonna knock off. This one to pick up. Okay, so we've got Google, we've got C language, got Boolean. Okay. How long have I been doing this? 40 minutes. Boolean. Okay, so now the question is, right, using Boolean values. How does that work? Okay. 13 answers. So, oh, right. Only what's weird is they have a Boolean there given as part of the provided part of things to be included, which is standard bool.h. So perhaps I need to look at that. Okay, what is that? Volume macros. Wikibooks. The header contains 4 macros for a Boolean digit. This header, great. Okay. Oops, there goes the camera. Alright, so so let's see if I can get that back on. Okay. So the header standard bool.h in the C standard library for the C programming language contains 4 macros for a Boolean data type. This header was introduced in C99. The macros was defined in the ISO C standard R bool, which expands to underscore capital B OOL, true, which expands to 1, false, which expands to 0. Okay, so it's like our computer architecture and that kind of Boolean. Okay. Oh, also in discrete math. Okay. So underscore bool, underscore bool, underscore true, underscore false, underscore r, underscore define, which expands to 1. Which should be used in an example. Okay, let's look at the example. And that's probably going to do it for tonight. I have to put some more thought into this. Int main. Ah, okay. So, okay, bool, keep going, equals true. Could also be boolean keep underscore going equals 1. While keep going, printf, this will run as long as keep going is true. So, put something in mark, okay. If a column has been marked, mark the first column. Ignore. If the column has been marked, go to the next column, mark that. Hey, a column has been marked. Ignore. So if a mark column, if any column has been marked, ignore. Go to the next row. Column has been marked. Go to the next unmarked column. Mark that column. Ignore the unmarked column. Go to the next row. Ignore the marked columns. Mark the unmarked column. Yeah, that's gotta be what it is. And then, so any other way, it's like the reverse of that. So, that's some good time thinking. Yep. And I'm getting kind of, I don't know, something. But, yeah, that seems like a nice safe place to take a break. And, let me just make sure nothing's going on. Because I'm pretty sure I'm talking to myself. If I'm not, I do apologize. I'm not used to this not being me. And if you are kind enough to come by for a bit, I do appreciate that. You have a wonderful evening. Hopefully I'll get to work on this some more tomorrow and have some better ideas and maybe something written out. Just gotta keep it up. That's all I know. Because the idea is to get into either algorithms or operating systems, and if not that, then to retake stuff with Java, and if not that, then take a well-deserved break while I get some life things figured out and start up fresh in the spring. So regardless, there's still a while to go. Thank you very much for those who have watched this or will watch this, and have a lovely evening. And I'm gonna have to sign off because yeah, I can only do something for so long, and people don't watch a long amount of stuff anyway, especially me rambling. So, alrighty, have a great night if it's night, and a great day if it's day. Either way, enjoy it.